Hello guys, welcome to this practical. So we're going to be doing a weather service chatbot, and this weather service is supposed to predict the weather. And we're going to use a free API service called Open Weather Map. And so that'll be the first step, is actually to get the API key for Open Weather Map. So a lot of the things we're going to be doing here will be similar to what we've done last week, which was on the currency service. And if you did the get the map exercise, then it's also the same concept, no? So there will be some sort of URL. We have to read the documentation and then get the data. Now I have to warn you, the data here will be a little bit more comprehensive, no? I mean, the data will be a lot more, so it might be a little bit harder, but I'll try to run you through it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is let's just create Open Weather Map and just sign in. And what we need is an API key. So let's quickly do that. So let's just navigate to Open Weather Map, or just do a search on it actually. Open Weather Map. Okay, so you have to sign in and get the key. All right, and so let me just. you have to sign up. Sign up. Okay, so I have actually signed up previously. So let me just. Okay, so you can see that this is a free service, okay, it's again, you're going to be given some sort of API key, right, for this. Okay, so you can copy that, and we're going to use that later on in our service. So the next step is actually to find out how to use this service, and so let's go ahead and look at the documentation, right, for this. So all of these API services will have some documentation. And so let's just go into, okay, so if you go under Get Started, you should be able to see here the forest. Now the easiest one to work with would be the current weather for any location. But we're going to use something a little bit maybe a little bit more complicated, but for me more useful, and that is the 5-day weather forecast. So you can sort of predict the weather on a particular date. Okay, so let's just click on this. Okay, so it says here that the 5-day weather forecast is available at any location or city. It includes weather data every 3 hours. So as you can imagine, every 3 hours, that's a lot of data, right? So one day you would have around 8 pieces of data for this. Okay, so how do you actually use this? You can see that you can specify the city name, okay, and then basically it's showing you the instructions on how to use this. Okay, something like that. Okay, so this is the data. It'll look something like this, right? Okay, so let's test this now, since this is given out. So we're just going to use this first one here. So I'm just going to copy this. Okay, so let me just paste it so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so we're just going to paste it here. So let's try to format this. It'll be HTTP, right? It'll be something like this. We'll change the city to Singapore, right? And the API key will be the API key we already was given to us. Okay, so to get the API key, I would like I usually just go to sign in here, and then I can see API keys, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this, right? And I'm just gonna go back here into this. Alright, so let's copy that, and let's just paste it somewhere and see what the results will look like. Okay, so I'm just gonna paste it right here, and there you go. See, look at that. That's a lot of data, right? So again, every 3 hours you have this data, and so you have to you still have to analyze this to get the data that we want, which will be to predict this data. Okay, so let's format this a little bit to see how it looks like. So we can actually format this data to make it a bit easier, you can just do a search on JSON formatter. Okay, so let's just use, okay, I'll just use this JSON lint. Okay, so this will just format the, okay, so you can paste the JSON here and then just validate JSON. There. So now you see the data a little bit better. So what is this data all about? So you can see it is an object, right? It's giving you a JSON object. And what you have here is under this list. Okay, so you see there is this key called list, and then you have an array inside this. Okay, so inside this array you have a bunch of information. So you have a bunch of objects. So the first one here is actually the date. Now the date will be a number, but this actually is a date. Okay, we're going to convert this to a date later on. This is what you call a timestamp. All right, and then, so this is the first object here. Okay, and then here we have here something called main. Okay, with a bunch of information. Okay, then under another key here, so we have date here, right? We have date. This is main. Then we have here weather and visibility. Okay, then it repeats. You see that? It repeats. So this is another date, and then you have the weather and the cloud. So the first entry here will actually be this I believe it's this one. Let's just double check. Yeah, so from here to is actually, okay, sorry, from here to here is the first entry. Okay, so this is at 28, so July 28, this is the forecast. So the forecast is actually clouds, overcast clouds. Okay, that's the forecast. Right, and then the second one, you can see it's the same thing, right? You have the second object here as part of this array. Okay, and it'll be this whole thing, and this will be now for July 28, but at 6 p.m. Okay, July 28 at 6 p.m. That's the forecast. Right, then the third one, as you can see, just to give you a feel for it, you have this one here, and so this is July 28 at 9 o'clock p.m. Okay, at 9 o'clock p.m. Okay, and then finally you have this one here, which is July 29 at 12 a.m. So you get the idea. For the next 5 days, all right, for the next 5 days, it's going to give you a forecast every 3 hours. Okay, now you might say that's more information than you need, but you have to look at this data and be able to extract the information that we want. So we're going to simplify it a little bit. We're not going to use all the data. Okay, we're just going to use one piece of data maybe for this, for a particular day, and that's it. Okay, we're going to do it like that. But of course, if you want to use all of this, you can as well do that. Okay, so it's a lot of data, as you can see, but it's just basically inside an array. See that? Okay, it's inside an array. All right. So with that, so again, everything is under this list key, right? So with that, let's go ahead and do some coding for this. So we have the data, it's already working. Okay, we already have the data. We've seen it working. Where was that? So this is the data, right? Okay, this is the data. Okay, so it's working. So that's a nice thing about this API. You can test it on the browser like this, because it just uses a GET request. Okay, so let's write some code now to do the forecast. So the first thing we're going to do is let's create the bot. So the bot will, so if you look at the practical, let's just look at the practical first. Okay, so the practical, okay, so this one is basically just describing what I've already described. Okay, so what is the bot doing? Okay, so we're going to have the bot ask it in a question like, we're going to specify what's the weather in Tokyo on November 9, or can you tell me the weather in Bangkok on Monday, or what's the weather in Singapore tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to let the chatbot ask in this fashion. So let's go ahead and do that now. So let's quickly go into our DialogFlow. So what did we call our intent? Let me just double check what we called our intent. We called it get weather. Okay, we called it get weather. So so let's just go ahead and do that. So let's go to DialogFlow now. Okay, so I think for our case, I renamed the parameter to city. Okay, is that correct? Did I do that? Yeah, I did rename it to city. Okay, so just take note of that. I did rename it to city. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create the bot now. Okay, so I should go to dialogflow.cloud. Okay, let's sign in with Google here. Okay, so let's just create the intent. So let's click the plus button here. And I'll just call this get weather. To make it simple, I'm not gonna do a full conversation as always. You can do that for your CA too, right? We'll just go straight to the intent and let the user ask. Okay, so let's just put in, so what is the weather in Tokyo tomorrow? So this one, we shall set it as the city, GeoCity. Okay, now based on my code, I renamed it actually to city. So just make sure you renamed it to city. Then tomorrow here will be set as date. Okay, so what did I call it? Let's just double check what I called it. Okay, I called it date. So I called it date. As you can see here, I called it date. So let's go ahead and just change this. I think this is, sorry, this should be date. Right, I think I called it sys.date, right? Just double check so that it's consistent with the code. Yeah, it's a date. Yeah, I did use date for this. Okay. So one is GeoCity, the other is date. So yeah, it looks correct. Okay. All right. So yeah, so this is, let's save this now. Okay, let's just press enter to this. Let's save this first. Okay. So let's just add another one. Okay. Okay. What's the weather in Kuala Lumpur on, so we need to have the next 3 days. I think that it is limited to 3 days. Okay, so if you take note of the limitation, okay, where is that? Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, it can only the free version can only accept within the next 3 days. Okay, it will only give you, I think, sorry, what is the free? Let's just double check that. Okay, so I thought there was a limitation for this, but it doesn't seem, can't seem to see it. I thought there was a limitation that it only allows the next 3 days. Okay, anyway, we can test it anyway. So what's the weather on, let's say, July 28th? Okay, so this one will be city, and this one will be date. Okay. Okay, then let's do another one. What's the weather in New York on Wednesday? City and date. Okay. All right. So that's for that. So let's just test this now. So what's the weather in Singapore tomorrow? So there it is. So you can see this is the query. The city was not found out for some reason. Okay, so okay, let's see what's the weather in Singapore on Wednesday, or let's say on Friday. So this should be city. Okay, so what's the weather in Singapore tomorrow? Let's see. Seems to be correct. What's the weather in Kuala Lumpur tomorrow? Okay, so here it got it. I don't know why Singapore it is not getting it. What's the weather in Singapore on Wednesday? Okay, so for some reason Singapore is not a city. I'm not sure what's going on there, but let's just try another city. Huh? So what is the weather in Bangkok on Friday? Okay, so for some reason Singapore is not being detected as a city. So I'm not sure why that is so, but maybe because it is a country. Okay. Anyway, it's working. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Okay, so maybe in the situation where this is not functioning for Singapore, you could just use as an any instead of as a city, a city GeoCity, right? You can use an any if you don't want, if GeoCity is not working for you, then that is fine. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and code our route now. So if you can go to Visual Studio. Okay, so this is the route that we did, right? If you recall, so we have here the /chat app, right, for the currency. So I'm just going to comment this out now. Okay, you cannot have duplicate routes, right? So we're going to place our code here. So just go to the practical code here, and you should see where the route.text. You can just copy that. That should be working. Okay, and then just paste the thing here. All right, so I make sure you comment out the currency route, no, that there should be only one /chat route. All right, so basically what am I doing here? So the first one is I'm supposed to read the city parameter that's being set by the route, and then the date parameter, okay, which I'm calling date string. So what we want to do is this date will actually should be converted to a date object, no, in JavaScript, no. So this now will convert. Okay, so this will convert the date string to a date object. Okay, then you have here from the date object we can get the month, right, and this one will get the day. Okay, so the month will be a number from 0 to 12. This will be the date, a day from 1 to 31. Okay, so you can console.log that to see, right? Console.log date string plus date string. Okay, then console.log month is month, and console.log day is day. Okay. All right. Now the next step here is just to make the request to the API, just like what we did. So here we have to put the URL, the exact URL, which we know works. Now you can see there's a space here, which I'm going to get rid of. Okay, so this is the API. And then basically once I'm changing the city, right, the Q equal to city to the one we are retrieving from our parameter, right? Right, and then I have here the API key, which is necessary in the URL. So the function will have a callback, right, if you remember. So what I'm doing here is I'm just logging out the body, what's coming back. And so what I'm doing here is I am converting the body, which is all the JSON that's coming back, I'm converting it to a JavaScript object. And then here I'm retrieving the whole array. Okay, remember, it's the array, it's list. Okay, array list. So if you recall, okay, so if you recall, this list here, this is list, right? And then here I am getting the array, right? This whole array. So here I'm actually retrieving I actually can view here list.length here. Okay, I can view list.length. Then this one here, I'm just testing something out. So basically, this is showing that you can convert. Remember, this is the date given by DialogFlow, right? This is this date. We will convert this date into a date object so we can compare, use it to compare. Okay, so I'm just demonstrating that you could do that from here. Okay. All right, so what we're doing here is we're looping from 0. We're looping at all the dates that were given. Okay, so we're looping through all the dates one by one. And what's happening here is we are going to do a check here. All right, so we are getting the date object that list I that date, list I the date. So it'll go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many dates are you going to get in one day? So every 3 hours you will get 8 entries, right? So each of these 8 entries, we are actually retrieving the date, this DT property. No? So if you actually go back here, you see, each entry will have this DT property which represents the date. Okay? Now you might say that doesn't look like a date, but this actually is a date. We're going to convert this to a date object, right? Because this is a valid date. It's a number, but this can be converted to a date. Right? So we are retrieving the DT for every item on that list, the 24 items that we are getting, for the 5 days, right? Because every 3 hours, right? So we're doing something very simple here. We're also getting the description, which is the weather, 0. So if you look at this, the description will tell you if it's light rain, or it is moderate rain, or it's sunny, right? So that's what this description does. Okay? Okay, so just to make it simple. Then here's our simple check. Now we will check this date. Okay? If date.getMonth is equal to month, right? So getMonth will return 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 0 is January, right? July should be 6, right? Because 0 is January, 1 is February, right? Yeah. So if that matches the month which is given by you, right? And it matches the day, then we're going to set that is what we want, right? So we're going to set the description is the weather, okay? And then we're actually going to put in, we're just going to concatenate the date as well, okay? So we're just going to be basically saying that the prediction will be light rain. Now you might say for every day there are 8 entries, right? So we're just getting the first one that matches. That's the one we're going to use to make it simple. And then we're going to respond back here. Okay? So that's basically the logic for that. Now you might say, why is this? So this is the one which actually converts, right? It converts this number. You see this number here? This will be converted to a date. This is actually the number of seconds, right? It's representing the number of seconds. This timestamp, okay? So to make it work, we actually have to convert it to milliseconds, all right? So that's why I multiplied by 1,000. So that's based on the documentation. Now, this date will only work if it's in milliseconds. Okay. Anyway, I did the research on that, and that's what it is. Okay. So let's test this now and see if it works. Right. So how do we test this? Let's test this first in Postman. Right. As usual. So we're gonna run this locally first. So let me open up a terminal here. Okay, make this a bit bigger. Okay, so I'm just going to do a node app.js. So it's running at 55.124. Let's go ahead in Postman to test this. Okay, so I'm just going to create a new request here. I'm going to make sure it's a a post, right? And then same thing, it will be http 127.0.0.1 / chat, right? So it is a post. So what we will do here, we need to put the DialogFlow raw data, right? So we should make sure that this is under JSON. So we have to go here, back to our DialogFlow, okay? And so this one is working, right? So let's just go and put the diagnostic info here. So I'm just gonna copy this, copy the raw response here, and let's just go back. Okay, so we go back to Postman, paste this thing there, okay? So there, so the city is Bangkok, this is the date given by Postman. This is a known format, and we remember we are going to convert this into a month and a day, right? So that then we compare it with the data in the array. So we click send and saying none found. Okay, so it might be, okay, let's see. I think the free one only allows the next 3 days. So let's see if tomorrow will be good, right? So let's just see 29, right? Let's see, none found. Okay, why is it none found? Okay, let's look at our code again. So let's look at the Visual Studio. So you see we have all the data coming back. Okay, so it'll be quite overwhelming, right? All of this data, right? But I'm just showing you that you want to check whether it's coming back. Okay, so it actually starts at 28. Oh, because it's actually sending that's 31, right? Let's see here, oh wait. Okay, so now day is 29. Oh, my month is 6. Okay, so my month is actually 6. 6 is supposed to be July, right? July 29. Is there a July 29 here? Yeah, there is actually a July 29 here. So somehow it is not matching. Okay, it is not matching. So we have to find out why it is not matching, right? It's still giving us, so you see there's 40 entries, right? There's 40 entries. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Somehow it did not match any of these things in the array. So let's see why that is so, huh? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, okay, so to avoid too much data, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to display out everything. So I'm just going to comment this out so there's not too much data. And then I'm just going to display out here the day and the month. So we can see if there's a 6 and a 29. Just put a console.log month is date.get month, console.log day is date.get date. So let's see, so now we're going to see for sure whether it matches. Okay, so let's just let's just try that again. I'm going to change this. Okay, so it's still none found. So you see the month is returning 0 somehow. Okay, that's not good. Oh, I think I know. I think the reason is this number has to be multiplied as well by okay, so you have to actually multiply it by 1000, I think. Okay, that's why it's giving the wrong data. Let me try that. I think that's the reason. There you go. Okay, there you go. So the issue was this thing has to be multiplied by 1000 because you want the milliseconds. This date, obviously, this date, if you actually look at it carefully, is actually represented in seconds. Okay, so you know, I was finding out what the reason is, why it kept on doing January 19th, because this was giving a different date, right, than the one we wanted. It had to be in milliseconds, and it would match what this really meant. Okay, I mean, if you want to convert with JavaScript. Okay, so this is the code. I'm going to give out this code so that you don't have to make these errors, okay, in Polymol, right? So that was what the issue was. and then I had an extra loop here which I didn't want. So you can see now it is correct. You see? See? So as you see, it starts from, let me make this bigger. So you see it starts from 28, right? And then because it's almost the end already of today, 28, as I'm doing this video, then 29, see? Then you can see until August already. So you can do that, the thing already. Okay, so it's working. So in fact, you could test this here, right? You can send a different date. So let's put here 31. No, is there July 31? Yeah, 31. Let's send this. So let's put here Tokyo. Now it's saying slight rain. Okay, now of course I didn't format this really nicely, but you can see I'm just showing you that it's light rain on July 31. Okay, in this, now this GMT is like the Greenwich Meridian time, so the time zone here, or Singapore Standard Time, right? Okay, so now we're ready to upload this to Heroku, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So what are we going to do here? So we do, again, same thing, Heroku login. Okay, then git add dot git push git commit -m test git push Heroku master, and let's now test this out. Okay, so in fact we could so we have this one right here, right? So we can test this now in Postman again. Always test this in Postman first. Okay, so there you go. So you can see that it is actually working. So it should actually work in DialogFlow. Okay, so let's just go back to, let's make sure this thing has fulfillment set. Okay, wait, yeah, so let's just save this first. Okay, so we go to fulfillment here, and I'm going to enable the webhook. Okay, so I'm just going to paste here this, and then it'll be /chat, right? Then I'm going to save that. What is the weather? There you go, right? So you can, it's very smart now, right? So you can just say, what is the weather on 31st July? Oh, what is the weather in Kuala Lumpur on 30th July? Let's see if that works. So it doesn't matter, it's very friendly in that case, no? The way it detects the city and formats the date for you. Now, of course, in a real chatbot, you would format this a little bit better. But I'm just making it simple here just for the demo. Okay, so I hope that was useful. Okay, now before I proceed, before I adjourn, I just want to share with you some other APIs out there. So again, you see another example of a free API that might be useful for certain types of chatbots, right? But there are others. I can recommend this one right here. This is called the Places API from Google. So if you actually go to Google Cloud, okay, so if you go to Google Cloud, there is another API. It's called the Places API here. Okay, so this is called the Places API in Google. You have to enable this for it to work. Let me just share with you what this can do. So you can just do a search on Google Places API. Again, this is another service, part of Google Cloud. Again, you don't have to pay anything. You have, again, all the credits available for this. So what this will do is it allows you to look at things like places search or places details. You can even look at user reviews. Okay, so you have to enable this. Let me just show you an example of this. As another powerful API that's available to use, and integrate into a chatbot. So if you can go into the documentation here, you should see there's some sample. So you see they have samples of how to use this. It's just like last week, you have to provide it with some API key, right, that you could use. So you can read up on this and see how this could be useful for you all. Okay, so this one is doing a search of a Mongolian grill, right, within 2000. Okay, so let's just copy this. So again, you can play around with this if you're looking for some APIs to try out. Okay, so I can just paste this. So this will basically be based on a Mongolian grill, and then you can play. So this is my key. Now, if in Google Cloud, they will give you a key, right? Just like last week, if you enable it. So if you can paste that, you can try it out and see if the information is something you could actually use. So there it is, see? So it's giving you things like the address, right? Based on this one, opening hours, right? And, nothing else much here. Okay, you can even see ratings here. Let's try, okay, let's see if we can change this to Raffles City, Singapore. Okay, so you can see that it's showing things like North Bridge. There's the name here, opening hours here. There's some ratings here and stuff like that. So again, Places API, a very powerful Google feature or API, free to use. You can look at it and see if you can you want to make use of that as well. Okay, so this is just another example of chatbots, APIs that chatbots can use. All right, so thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.